Hello! For those of you who don't know, I'm Hannah. I just graduated, I just finished my first semester of law school. Far from graduating. Anyway, I just wanted to do a little reflection video. Oh my god, my pants, string. I wanted to do a little reflection video on how I think it went, what I'm glad I did, what I wish I'd done differently. And I was gonna wait to make this video until after I got my final grades back from this semester, but I was like,
no, that's stupid.
Even if I failed all my classes, it still doesn't invalidate my experiences from this semester. So before I dive into some of the things I want to talk about, I'll give some background information on the structure of this semester with everything going on this year. My school went with a hybrid model, so we had 2 of our classes in person and then 2 of our other classes fully online over Zoom. This structure actually worked well for me because I'm a pretty introverted person, so having the less people time actually helped me save energy. It was pretty funny though, trying to meet people when most of the meetings and events are online. So that actually brings me to my first thing I'm glad I did, which is put myself out there in terms of making friends with my classmates and talking to my professors outside of class and meeting with attorneys just to hear about what they do. And they know I'm a 1L, so they don't expect anything from me. They're like, oh yeah, this girl knows nothing. Even if I ask stupid questions, it's fine. For classmates, I'm glad I put myself out there as much as I could have during the pandemic. If you're wondering, how do you make friends over Zoom? I literally just would message people in my class, whether I added them on Facebook or directly messaged them over Zoom during class. I just reached out to people, and people generally appreciate that. Like, we all are in the same position, we all want to meet people, and it's just awkward. You kind of have to embrace the awkwardness of sort of, hey, I know you from Zoom and I've seen the inside of your apartment, but I've never actually met you in person. And then the first day of our in-person class, I just like went up to people and was like, hey, your name is whatever. And then they're like, oh yeah, like, what's your name? Anyway, I even have an example like of my inserting myself into people's lives. So we had these small little group meetings with our professors. Every professor does it differently, but for one of them, it was a group of 4 or 5 of us talking to a professor just for him to get to know us. And he's like an older white guy, obviously typical of a law school professor. But so there's this one classmate that I now consider a friend. He is the only black male student in my section, and his name, the way it's registered, is very not what an old white guy would know how to pronounce. So you can imagine when he's trying to say his name, he was just like, I mean, I know he's nice, but he was just so he just like wrote it off and was like, oh, I don't know how to pronounce that name. I'm not even gonna try. So that made me really uncomfortable, just because that's clearly just disrespectful to the person, like that's his name. So after that, I actually added him, the student, my friend, on Facebook. He accepted right away, so I was like, okay, I'll get in those DMs. I was like, hey, I just wanted to let you know, sorry if I'm overstepping my bounds, but what the professor said about your name and everything just made me really uncomfortable. And I told him like, oh yeah, I just want to check in and see how you're doing. And he was so appreciative. First of all, he's like, oh, like that was mild compared to other little racial microaggressions he's experienced, but he really appreciated that I noticed, and I reached out to him. I think we're friends now. Also, another story of how I made a friend. It's really awkward when we first meet each other during orientation via Zoom. So like we know each other's faces and the names show up in the little face windows. So that actually helped me learn people's names really quickly, like more so than in person, where people don't wear like name tags all the time. So there's this guy in my class who looks exactly like Jesse Pinkman from Breaking Bad, and I was in a small group assignment with him that was over Zoom at the very beginning of the semester. That allowed me to like weasel my way into adding him on Facebook. And a month or so later, where we were walking out of one of the in-person classes, and we made eye contact for a second, and it's so awkward when you're wearing masks and you make eye contact with people. You don't know like what their expressions are, and it's like, oh, like, do I say something? So I just like went for it. I was like, you're blank, right? I'm not gonna say his name just for privacy reasons, but I was like, hey, you're this. Has anyone ever told you you look like, and then he knew right away. He was like, yeah, I get that all the time. But yeah, so just embracing the awkwardness of sort of knowing each other but not really from Zoom classes it was kind of fun for me to just play around with. And then with professors, I really liked all of them. One of them I really did not love the teaching style, but it's fine, whatever. I'm really glad I went to these little get-togethers that they would put on over Zoom. It was just like lunchtime with Professor Blank. I would actually stick around. Like there was this one meeting where there were 3 or 4 of us students with our professor, and it had been like an hour of us just chatting, and they were like, oh yeah, like I need to go like work on my memoir study. But I'm actually like really obsessed with this professor. I have an intellectual crush on him. I'm not afraid to say that. I stuck around and we were just chatting for another like hour. So I was talking to him for a couple hours total, and it was just really great getting to know him outside of class, just building that personal relationship and letting him get to know me and me get to know him outside of class. Now I feel like I can go to him to write a letter of recommendation. It would just like lighten the load for me if I don't see these professors just as these people who are teaching me and then are gonna grade my final exam. Like it just helped humanize them, and I mean also just build my network. I'm also glad that I reached out to random alums that I would meet over events or panel discussions just to hear about what they do, and they're all very welcoming, and I mean most of them are, and they want to help you. I don't know what it is, but everyone I've talked to is so willing to help me. One of the attorneys is like, oh yeah, like send me your resume, we'll go over it. So I've already sent him a couple drafts of my resume, and we've just talked on the phone of how to make it better. I think it's really helpful to have that real world link so that I know what's coming, and just to have mentors that have already been through what I'm going through. And also in terms of mentors, I'm really glad that I took advantage of the Hannas. It's the minority affinity group at my school, and it's just a way to connect with people. There's just an automatic commonality between other Asian women. Yeah, so I met one of my mentors through Hannas. She's been so helpful to me throughout the whole semester. We've met over Zoom a couple of times, and she's sent me outlines of the classes that I'm taking, and even if she took a different class than I did, she'll like find some of her friends' outlines. For those of you who don't know, outlines are summaries, whether they're thorough or just very brief, of the classes, and they're really helpful because when you're going through the semester, what we're learning about are mostly case law, which is we're reading cases and discussing the law that comes out of them, but we're not really connecting it to the big picture or something that's useful for the final exam. So it's really helpful to have other people's exams who took that professor's class, just to see how everything fits into the big picture. So she was really helpful with that. And also with just validating my experiences. I would just say like, hey, I feel so lost, like I don't know how to connect it to the big picture. I feel like I'm doing everything I can, but I still don't know anything. I think everyone all feels that way, and it's just nice to hear someone who has just been through it. She actually went to the same undergrad as me. I think she's younger than me because she went straight through, but anyway, I'll talk more about what the actual classwork and academic aspect entailed. I don't want to go there until I've gotten my grades back, because it's like, oh, if I failed everything, like who are you to say like, here's what to do in law school, but I don't actually know what I'm doing. Yeah, so we'll wait for that. Things I wish I'd done differently. This I can say even without seeing my grades. I wish I had set a study schedule, because there were some days where I'd be on Zoom all morning in my apartment, and that would just drain me. So I would spend the next like few hours until, I don't know, 5 or 6 p.m. napping or dinking around on YouTube or just wasting time, because I was so drained from class, and I wouldn't have any motivation to start studying until like later in the night, and then it's like, oh crap, I have so much to do. and it's already 7 p.m. So I wish I had given myself a time limit to unwind, because like that's fair. Yeah, I need a break after class, but I don't need a 6-hour break. So I wish I had limited the time that I gave myself off before getting back into the books. And on that note, I wish I had worked out. I had no physical activity during the semester, and I think it would have helped. Even if it's not like a hard workout, like I can't go to gyms right now because of the world as it is right now, but even just going for a walk or a quick jog would have helped me get out of my head and stop worrying, how is this going to apply to final exams? I don't know what I'm doing. It just would have given me a refresh that naps don't always give me. Sometimes I feel grosser after a nap. So yeah, I'll definitely have that as one of my goals for next semester. Also, this is sort of obvious, but I wasn't always prepared for class, confession. I don't regret spending most of my study time reviewing versus preparing for class, but there were a few classes where I just didn't read all the cases that were assigned for whatever reason. I was called on a couple times where I wasn't prepared, and it's not a huge deal. Like the professor, first of all, the professors don't even like remember if you like what you say on a cold call, because they're so focused on their own lecture and what they want to teach. So there were a couple times when they called on me and I was banking on not being called on, and I was just like, sorry, I didn't read this case, and then they just move on. So it's not a huge deal, but the reason I regret it is because it would affect my self-esteem, and I would spend a lot of time the rest of the day just like regretting that and being like, oh my god, they think I'm stupid, my classmates think I'm stupid now. But it happens to everyone, first of all, so it doesn't matter objectively, but for me it would just ruin my mood, at least for a little while after, and then I'd get mad at myself, and then it just wasn't productive. So I should have just read a case brief from Lexis or Westlaw. I mean, that's better than just not reading the case at all. So yeah, I want to save more of the academic stuff for a different video and like actual study tips and how to read a case. So stay tuned for that, and I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any questions or talking points that you're curious about regarding law school that I didn't touch on in this video, comment below, and thank you for watching. See you in the next one.